We as teachers often think all our prayers will be answered if only our students would do enough practice. But here's the truth. It's not about how much students practice. Welcome to Piano Teaching Success Podcast. I'm Gillian.
And I'm Paul. As teachers, we know kids are busy. And let's face it, it could be 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, or even 6 days after the lesson before they actually touch the piano again.
Don't you love about those day before practices? It's trying to cram everything in. And when they do sit down, what do they practice? The stuff they already know, not the tricky bit we actually need them to work on.
Oh, exactly. So the question really becomes, how do we help them remember if there's a gap between the lesson and when they finally get time to sit down and practice? Well, we can't eliminate the gap, but we can make sure their brain has enough pathways, enough little anchors, so that when they do finally practice, something fires up.
I think it's a little bit like driving a car. If we go the same route every single time, our brain just checks out and we just go on autopilot, and sometimes we can't even remember how we got there. I know this happens to me a lot.
Me too.
But if we take a different route, even once or twice, suddenly you're changing it up in your brain. Suddenly, you're paying attention a little bit more, you're building mental mind map about where all the different routes are and how they can all fit together. And that means that you can recover if you miss a turn or if there's a traffic jam or something and you think, oh, I could go that way. And so you can dive and twist on a moment's notice. And that's because we've built up a knowledge bank in our brains to draw on.
And that's exactly what we want for our students, a knowledge bank of memories to draw on so they can have multiple ways of recalling what to do so that they remember when they get home. Today we're zooming into the foundation model of whole body learning and the 3 M's. And the 3 M's are multisensory, multimodal, and music or sound recordings. And here's what's cool about the 3 M's. When you mix them together, even just in tiny ways, the learning suddenly sticks. Kids remember what to do and they start to feel confident. And they want to go home and try it because it feels doable. So you might be wondering, what do we mean by all of this? Well, one of our lovely studio members, Catherine, has shared this video of her using the 3 M's to teach 2 of her students.
Pizza, pizza, pepperoni pizza, 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 pepperoni cheese. Pizza, pizza, pepperoni pizza, thumb, pizza, pepperoni cheese. Let's sing. Runny tummy, yummy tummy, yummy tummy, yummy cheese. And sing. Pizza, pizza, pepperoni pizza, 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 pepperoni cheese.
Oh, I just love that.
I just love that too. There's just so many good things in there.
Exactly. So many pre-learning activities before they actually get to the piano. And I love that all of it was done with real music.
And that's the M for music, isn't it? That's that M.
It is. It might be a full orchestra recording or a band, any recording really, but using music. We don't want just one-dimensional piano recordings though. We want to make sure that we have really lovely accompaniments and that they're musical.
Let's just work through why not piano, because so many albums and so many things just come with someone playing the piano, or well, it's probably not someone, I don't know. It may or may not be someone, it doesn't matter. But it's just a piano recording. We call that one-dimensional.
Absolutely. I love the orchestral sounds because it makes it sound much more interesting.
And I think also it provides that kind of orchestra around the children so that they get to hear different genres of music. And I think that's why we see with our students, stylistically, they play in the right style. And I think it's because they've always been surrounded by various different genres of music. They're not just hearing it as piano music.
And the other thing is that often with the piano recordings, there's no introduction. So you have to sort of go 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, there's a click track. I can never come in at the right time with those things. You'd think you would. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I still got to start. And it's only one bar. That's often the thing. One bar's not enough to kind of gauge the sort of speed, the tempo of something. I think, one of the things I love about beautiful orchestral backing tracks, it can be an orchestra, it can be a band, it can be a jazz band, it can be any kind of, the right kind of, it could be a Baroque orchestra playing the piece for a little Baroque piece. But I think it's because it's like going from, the student hears their piece in like full Technicolor, and then so many things click. They hear the tempo and start to feel the beat. They understand that style. It's a hard thing. It's a bit esoteric to teach style. But when they hear it, it sort of comes into their brains and their feelings. And whether it's a classical or a pop or a rock piece or a jazzy piece. And then the other thing I think they do by hearing a track, they hear the full piece in its whole entirety. And it's one thing for us to play it for them. I'm sure a lot of people do model performance, but it's another thing to hear it in its entirety in a recording. And I think they can also start to identify those patterns or the form of a piece, which helps them kind of understand where their little bit that they might be learning fits in. So instead of decoding dots, they're actually learning music.
Exactly. Teaching with backing tracks is just so brilliant. And there's all these skills that are being developed. And we've found this over so many years of using backing tracks, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, what is it, 30? More than 30 years. We're not going to admit to anything more than 30. Well, age is too much.
And the thing about playing in time is it's so critical. And if they don't play in time, they're left behind. And so they feel a sense of success when they actually do play in time, and they're making micro adjustments to their own speed to listen and stay in time with the track. So it's the most musical metronome you'll ever have.
Yeah. And I think for piano teachers, we haven't grown up with this sort of technology, but do yourself a favour, put a backing track on and try to stick with it. You'll know what it will mean by these micro adjustments. You have to sort of, I'm going a little bit faster. I better slow down a bit. And you have to constantly listen intently to it. It's quite a skill. And a really important skill for musicians, right?
Absolutely. And, the other thing is when you have the music in front of you and you're following the music along with the track, it really is going to help your reading skills because you have to read in time with the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Your eyes are glued to following the music. And they also need to be able to pick it up if they make a mistake. It's sort of, like their eyes have to keep on following the score while they work out when to come in again. Again, another sight reading skill, right?
Absolutely. And also they really want to hear the track. So they might have to adjust their volume so they can hear the track. So if they get too loud, they've got to make sure that they can hear. And these are really, really important skills that musicians need. And yet most piano students rarely develop them.
Yeah, they're not good at listening. In fact, I don't even think they listen to themselves, They're just sort of like in the moment. They're really intellectually decoding dots. And I think the ears kind of get forgotten.
But the one thing that I always come back to is when we use music in the lesson, it triggers the memories and they remember. So if you're doing some movement or singing or doing all sorts of pattern play or whatever, when they actually have the music at home, all of those memories come back because the music is actually using more parts of the brain.
And by music, you mean the track.
Yes,
so they go on the track and all of a sudden their piece comes to life. All of those little memories in their brain trigger. That's what you're trying to say, just to
absolutely.
be clear.
Don't underestimate the power of music to teach music because using music to teach music is our first M.
And the second M is multi-sensory. And this is where we incorporate as many senses as possible. So we have 5 senses, and in music, it's about giving students a learning experience which incorporates visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. And when you think about it, taste and smell probably don't come into the fold very much when you're teaching music.
I think that would be if you were learning cooking, though.
Yes. And, if you really want to make a big impact, if you're doing hot cross buns or something like that, if you bought a hot cross buns out and the lovely cinnamon smell of the hot cross buns, that might make an impact on your student, just occasionally. And in the off-band or pre-learning activities you see in the piece that we showed you, you saw the mother and the child singing and moving in time. And then we flicked to another student doing the same piece but a different part of the learning process, and you saw them doing a little finger prep activity on their mum's back. And this is just such a wonderful way of doing it's away from the piano, but it's still preparing for the piano, and it's preparing it on a vertical plane rather than a horizontal plane, which actually adds to the amount of neural pathways involved in this, doesn't it?
Exactly. And you could see they were clicking for the crotchets
Pizza,
or
I think.
quarter notes. Pizza, pizza. And I think they were pepperoni, pizza. They were clapping for the pepperoni. So that's the TTs or the quavers or the eighth notes, depending where you are in the world.
Yeah.
And then pepperoni cheese, I think, was at the end, was on their shoulders or across their
I think
shoulders.
it's crossbody they
Yeah.
did.
They're really recognizing you could go to the music and start identifying all those rhythm patterns as well as another part of that learning strategy because they've already got it in their body.
That's right. We see this time and time again. When they see it, they hear it, they move it, they say it, they sing it, they play it, their brains light up and the learning becomes unforgettable. And what we have found is that, we know that kids are busy these days and they don't practice as much as we'd like them to. But when we actually provide these robust neural pathways, all of these many varied activities, and they didn't take very much time, we were doing many, many things all at the same time in that example, then it sticks in their brains and they do remember it from week to week.
Exactly. And, you might be doing some of these activities already, but maybe you're not doing it in a structured or purposeful way. And I think that's one of the critical things about when you are using multisensory activities, that you're making them intentional because then it really sharpens everything.
I think one of the other things, Paul, is also to vary it. Like people go, movement, clap, I'll just clap it. And so everything is clap. Well, that just gets boring,
Yes.
Yes. And you've got to really be looking at a menu of different ways of doing something to keep it interesting and keep them on the edges of their seat so they think, oh, what's going to come next?
Exactly. And we have a little menu for everyone to download in the show notes. So head over to the show notes to get our download today as well.
So multisensory doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as getting students to clap the rhythm, sing a phrase before they play it, move to show maybe the contour of the melody. So if it's going up high or going down low, you can actually absolutely put a lot of cross-body things in there because that's so good for integration and for coordinational ability. And they can even just say, preferably sing, the finger numbers or note names in rhythm, in the rhythm of the piece. So these little tiny things really anchor the information more deeply than say, look at that note and play, decoding notes, look at that note, play that, and that's two, because that gets them intellectually into their brains and rather than into their ears and into their physical body.
Yes, exactly. Reading alone is a complex multisensory skill, but responding to music through movement, singing and hearing patterns, well, they're all natural. And especially for young children, they're really developmentally appropriate.
And let's just come back to this young children thing, Paul, because gosh, I saw a report recently. It used to be that we started teaching piano when children were like 7 or 8. 8 was the number, and then they kind of moved it down to 7. When I first started teaching the piano, that was the norm. But now, what was the stats on that number of children?
93% of teachers are teaching children between 4 and 7, starting children between 4 and 7. And
here's the thing, those kids don't read. So
That's right.
the whole reading approach does not work with them because that's not developmentally what they do, these little kids.
But what's even more interesting from that report is that 26% of teachers are actually teaching, have that 26% of their student body are that age group. So a quarter. It's amazing.
We have to adapt for these different age groups because not all age groups learn the same way. As we know that with teens and we know that with adults too, we've got to change and adjust. And multisensory learning is absolutely the way that little children from really, really little early childhood programs, if you go visit a childcare program or kindergarten, preschool, you'll see all of these multisensory activities. And prep, the early years at school, they'll all be very multisensory. So, this is where we have to teach music if we want to reach these little younger kids.
And also, if we make it multimodal as well with the third M, because if multisensory is about how many senses we're using, multimodal is about how many different ways we can do these in different places in the studio.
Absolutely. And again, you'll see that in early childhood centres too. They'll move the kids around. But, most piano teachers, because it's just what we knew when we learnt, we just rely on one mode. It's like sit on the piano stool, here's the music, now read and play. But multimodal teaching means giving students multiple pathways into the same piece. And so you might create various learning stations around your room. For example, one learning station is at the piano, for sure. Another one could be on the floor. There could be a movement space. You might have a little movement space in your studio that you could set up. You could set up an activity on a coffee table or a desk that you have in the room, at a computer, at a whiteboard.
There's a whole host of fun things that you can do. The other thing you can do is involve props and other resources. I've spoken to a few piano teachers who involve puppets, which I think is so much fun for the little ones. But there's also playing percussion instruments, using flashcards on the floor, doing an activity using a floor piano if you have one of those. I know a few people in the UK who had the floor pianos that Simpson Sounds used to make. Or a floor staff or stave. They're really great as well.
And then there's those little funny erasers that a lot of teachers do use those ones as well. If you're doing that, you're actually doing multimodal learning. Some of our studio members who are really embracing whole body learning with their students, they use things like bean bags and agility ladders to represent the stave, and coloured spots of in all sorts of creative ways. So the world is your oyster. You just got to kind of break out of it and think creatively. Technology also can be involved here. You know, sometimes we want to do less of that rather than more of it, but computer games what is that computer game where they have to kind of guess the note names and things like that?
Note Rush.
Oh, yeah. That's right. They can be really great. I mean, this is the digital generation. We have to meet them where they're at, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it can work, some of the computer stuff can work really well for theory.
There's another one of the apps that you use for learning language now has music on it as well.
Duolingo?
Duolingo, yes. One of my older students who is a dreadful reader, I went, oh my God, Daniel, you can read. He went, oh yeah, I decided I had to learn somehow. So I did Duolingo and now he can read.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Once they've got all those skills, though, the reading can come together in a week.
Yeah.
Because they've got all the skills. They just need to find a little kind of pathway that just bolts them all together.
Exactly. So when you're putting the 3 M's together, that's the music, so recorded music, multisensory and multimodal, you're creating strong neural pathways so that your students can't help but remember what to do when they go home. I always remember, they start playing the music and they hear it and they remember. All those memories keep flooding back to them. And that's how we can help kids succeed. If they don't practice as much as we would wish they would.
Yeah, well, we always wish they practice more than they do, I think. And some teachers might worry or think that parents will think that these pre-learning activities are a waste of time. So I thought you might like to hear what the parent you saw in that video feels about the process of whole body learning.
It is really like whole body to know what's happening. I think that's better than only your finger or your brain. And your eyes. But what we're learning now is your leg and then your hand and then everything together. I think that's
brings it all together.
Yeah, better
and
way to teach
putting it
kids.
in the brain.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think it's really good.
In a fun way. Thanks, Sophie. You're a great piano mum.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, we think that they won't get it, but they do get it.
And I love hearing that from a parent. And what a great teaching idea to celebrate them for being a great parent as well.
Absolutely.
It really affirms the parent for participating in their child's education. I absolutely know in my heart how important it is because I've been doing this for over 30 years where I've had parents in. I know it's so critical to have those parents in with those kids because they don't remember on their own.
Yes, particularly this 5 to 7-year-old beginner that we've been talking about, even 8-year-olds to some extent, but that young beginner really thrives when the parent is there. You can see it because they can't remember, as Paul said, they just can't remember what to do. They're 5. Well, that was a lot of ideas, enough to get your creativity buzzing. To help you put all that into action, we created the 3 M's handout. Grab the link from the show notes below. Newsletter subscribers, your handout is already in your inbox. And if you're not subscribed yet, head to pianoteachingsuccess.com and join our newsletter list so you never miss an episode or free resource again. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.